The carriage eventually arrived at their destination, a blacksmith shop. As Woon entered the blacksmith's shop, he marveled at the unfamiliar sights and sounds around him. Having never witnessed a real blacksmith in action, he found the atmosphere intriguing and cool. A blacksmith approached Woon, asking how he could be of assistance. Woon explained that he was searching for the craftsman who had made this dagger. The blacksmith called out to a certain individual named Cheol, who initially seemed preoccupied and reluctant to join the conversation. However, she eventually made her way over to them. He was taken aback by Cheol's modern attire and her height, pondering whether she could be a supermodel or a foreigner. Attempting to communicate in English, Woon asked Cheol if she could speak the language. To his embarrassment, Cheol responded, indicating that she did not understand him. Cheol demanded to know the reason for Woon's search for this knife, gripping his collar in anger. She questioned whether he believed a weapon made by a woman was inferior, or if he thought women were incapable of working with metal. She challenged Woon's assumptions, emphasizing that she was capable of producing an even better dagger. Frustrated, she questioned why he was seeking her out if he believed he couldn't use her creations. He wondered if Cheol's mention of a better dagger meant she had improved upon his original design. He cautiously asked if she had designed and made the dagger herself. Cheol, with a hint of pride, confirmed that she had indeed crafted it, challenging Woon to voice any complaints. Woon, intrigued by Cheol's skills, proposed that she become the exclusive blacksmith for his Dark Lion troops, offering to pay her 3 times her current salary. A few days later, Woon returned to the blacksmith to collect the bow he had requested. Cheol proudly presented the finished product, remarking that it was now complete. He's impressed by the craftsmanship that she had indeed made it perfectly. He couldn't help but wish he could ask her to create a gun as well, though he tried explaining the principles, but because of his lack of explanation, it was impossible to tell her the principle of a gun. Nevertheless, he believed that equipping the Dark Lion with modern weapons like the compound bow would greatly increase his chances of survival and finding a way back home. Expressing his admiration, Woon complimented Cheol, acknowledging her genius in crafting such innovative items. Cheol replied that she also found enjoyment in creating new things. Woon then commented on the remarkable nature of having a compound bow, highlighting its mechanical structure, which made it stand out in their era. She realized that her initial impression of Woon as a cold person was perhaps misguided. Upon closer observation, she found him rather cute. In Kwang's party, consisting of various allies, a discussion took place. Kwang, the male protagonist of the novel, was joined by Su Yun, Seng from the Wudong sect known as the Dalian Sword King, Siapeng from the Jagal family heresy, and Ryuyan from the Kunlun sect. They were in the midst of making plans. Seng, arriving in a rush, shared the news with a sense of urgency. He believed that the group they had been suspecting as spies from the demonic cult would ultimately head to Sichuan. Siapeng, having anticipated this, expressing his previous suspicions and emphasizing the overall suspicious nature of the situation. He questioned why an archaic treasure map had suddenly surfaced. Sang acknowledged Siapeng's concerns and revealed that the decision regarding the matter had been made by the Jagal family. He had heard that they were preparing to depart for Sichuan in the near future. Siapeng couldn't hide his frustration and let out a loud exclamation of disbelief. He expressed his annoyance towards the Jagal family, calling them brainless idiots. Sang, finding amusement in Siapeng's outburst, pointed out that Siapeng himself was a member of the Jagal clan. Sang chimed in, suggesting that if that was the case, the Orthodox Jagal family might deploy the Azure Heaven unit for the upcoming mission. Sang added to the conversation, referring to the Azure Heaven unit members as infamous latecomers who would be the first to advance this time. Siapeng expressed his disdain towards the arrogant reputation of the Azure Heaven unit, finding their attitude highly displeasing. Turning to Kwang, he asked for their plan of action. Kwang, lying on the grass and doing stretches, calmly stated that they should also head to Sichuan. Siapeng, filled with concern, questioned Kwang's decision, expressing fear that they would be walking into an obvious trap. Sang interjected, noting that despite the Azure Heaven unit's arrogance, Kwang couldn't simply abandon them to their fate. He commended Kwang for his sense of responsibility and leadership. Kwang, preparing to move, simply stated, "Let's go." The group prepared to head towards Sichuan. Sang, trailing behind, called out, urging them to wait and suggesting that they all go together. As they walked through the hallway outside the main palace, Woon, and Xian engaged in a conversation. Xian expressed his realization that Jean had indeed become the young cult leader. Curious about the details, He asked Woon to share what had transpired at the successors' meeting. Letting out a sigh, Woon began to explain the situation. He recounted how the meeting was intense and demanding. GM Woon's older brother had argued that burning the holy flame tokens during the Heaven Demonic Festival was cheating. He insisted that he should have been chosen as the young cult leader since he possessed the most tokens before they were burned. To resolve the matter, a vote was cast. The Raho clan and the Chanyu clan had supported Jin, casting their votes in his favor. On the other hand, the Baitian clan and the Shiman clan had backed GM, resulting in a tie. The Mahan clan had abstained from voting altogether. Xian, puzzled, questioned how Jin had ultimately been chosen as the successor if the votes were tied. Woon clarified that in the end, they had decided to compete against each other. Knowing Jin's formidable abilities, Woon believed there was no way GM could win against him. Within the grand halls of the Divine Cult main palace, Moon, the cult leader, stood alongside his family members, Wool, Jin, and Won. Woon, addressing Jin, congratulated him on becoming the true successor. Jin, acknowledging Woon's role in his success, expressed his gratitude. He wondered how Woon had managed to secure the support of the Chanyu clan, in addition to the Raho clan. Woon, with a hint of pride, replied that he had his own methods. He recalled the surprising fact that all members of the mighty Chanyu clan were suffering from malnutrition. This realization led him to provide them with supplements and nutritional tonics, as he understood the importance of a balanced and nourishing diet. Woon modestly attributed their support to the assistance of himself and Wool. Wool smiled, appreciating the positive outcome of their efforts. Woon responded with a smile, redirecting the credit to Wool and himself. Their united front had proven instrumental in gaining the Chanyu clan's backing. Moon, observing the harmonious bond between Woon and Jin, expressed his satisfaction with their strong brotherly relationship. Woon questioned about the sudden summoning. Moon revealed that intelligence had arrived, prompting Woon to open the scroll. To his surprise and shock, Woon discovered that many martial artists from the Central Plains were heading towards Sichuan. Moon explained that while the number of people was not the main concern, the timing was unfortunate. A major incident had occurred a few months prior, where an imposter claiming to be a follower of the divine cult had caused chaos in the Qingqing sect. The imposter had taken a hostage and ultimately detonated himself, resulting in significant casualties. Moon suspected that there might be a scouting unit or an advance squad dispatched by the Central Plains martial artists, hence the need for Woon to go to Sichuan and monitor their movements. Moon informed Woon that he had already notified the divine cult Sichuan branch and instructed Woon to seek out the Five Virtues Trading Company. He directed Woon to use their funds to establish a base for future entry into the Central Plains. Terrified, Woon asked if Moon truly wanted him to go. In his mind, he dreaded the prospect of encountering Kwang, whom he saw as a formidable adversary. Jin reassured Woon, mentioning that he had recommended him to their father. Woon believed that Jin had merely repaid his gratitude by pushing him towards a danger situation. Moon saw this as a great opportunity for Woon to take the first step towards advancing into the Central Plains. He emphasized that if Woon performed well, his position within the Dark Lion unit would greatly improve. Despite Moon's encouragement, Woon felt disinterested and unmotivated. In his mind, he had no desire for such advancements or positions within the cult. His father expressed his trust in Woon, stating that he had assigned him this mission not only because of his brother Jin's recommendation, but also because of his own belief in his abilities. In Woon's mind, he questioned whether his performance had been too exemplary, leading to this important task being bestowed upon him. He weighed the consequences of refusing the mission, fearing that it might strain his relationship with Jin once again and potentially sever his ties with Moon, the cult leader. Conflicted and unsure, Woon ultimately decided to accept the mission, realizing that rejecting it would be the worst choice.
Go, go.